Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about Talkspace, a stock where I've been accumulating a few of the calls, the April calls. That's how I've been building my position there. The calls are way up, much more than the stock itself. Since I last covered it, the stock is up 30%. It saddens me because I was looking for a nice way to grow a starter position there, and it's back up. But we need to zoom out. We need to zoom out. 2 weeks of movement. 30% over 2 weeks. This stock was up at one point more than 80% down from the SPAC price. It's still, it was a SPAC in 2021, right? It SPACed at $10, and like all SPACs, the market is still in the mode SPAC equals bad. And so that's an easy way for analysts to avoid just looking at the company. People just don't cover the company because SPAC bad. And this journey, actually, this valley of despair here in the price reminds me a lot of HIMS. And as long as we don't get past that $10-12-ish price again, this stock is not gonna get into price discovery. This stock is not gonna have meaningful analysts looking at it as long as it doesn't get back beyond its its SPAC price, its introduction price. Anyways, that's why I think the price movement for these ones, they don't mean much until the market starts looking at them and taking them seriously. It's a very small cap, which is why I wanted exposure via call options, and I'll just exercise them in April of 25. So it saddens me. But the stock is up, but the stock is doing well. The revenue growth is still guided to be anywhere between 23 and 30%. We'll get that to in a second towards the end of the video. The growth is still growing. Q3 23 to Q3 24. You're still at 45% year over year growth. We've had a little bit of a flattening, but because the guidance is still up, that doesn't bother me as much. The gross profit is steady. It's 45.6% gross profit. This is a company whose operating expenses are going down consistently. And of course, when you have revenue up, profit margin, gross profit margin stable, operating expenses down, what do you get? You get adjusted EBITDA up. And as soon as they start posting some earnings, the market will probably start paying attention a little more. So I actually just checked. Yeah, they reported 1 cent in earnings, but as you know, I don't look at earnings. I look at revenue growth. So this company is doing well. Let's get into the call. Let's talk about what was said in the call. So, of course, at this point, this is mostly a revenue growth story. This is all about the adoption of Talkspace, the platform for online therapy sessions, right? Video and chat, online therapy sessions. Talkspace is the platform for that space, but with insurance, right? They use insurance. It's a main distinction between Teladoc's BetterHelp, which tries to go after a market that doesn't have insurance. Talkspace uses insurance, and that is kind of how they get people to pay for therapy, because turns out a lot of people don't really want to pay out of pocket for that type of service. So I understand why they are going through the insurance, even though it's not my favorite, because it means the growth can be slower and the growth can be lumpy. Nonetheless, the covered lives right now is 160 million. They hope to have 200 million covered lives in 2025. They've been growing covered life by 40%. What is a covered life? When you have a covered life, it means that Talkspace has gone through the hoops of actually qualifying for reimbursement by XYZ Insurance. So they go across all of the insurance companies in the US and they try to fit their offer for them to qualify for some level of reimbursement by this or that insurance. That's how they do it. And because of that, their total sessions are 316,000. It's a 38% increase year over year. So the growth is there. One of their big work in progress progress has been Medicare getting approved for Medicare and Medicare reimbursements. So if you're not in the US, Medicare is for 65 plus. The US has a quote-unquote form of universal health care for if you're 65 and over. This is how it works. I grew up in Europe always hearing, oh, the US doesn't have any form of universal healthcare. Well, they do if you're 65 plus. If you're 65 plus, you have Medicare. Of course, there's other parts that you have to pay, but it's like that in some countries, right? Insurance doesn't cover everything ever. So for Medicare, you have to pay something like Part B, I think it's called something. But Medicare covers a bunch, right? And it's in 30 states now. They are accepting Medicare in 30 states. They are on track to accept Medicare in 50 states before Q1 of 2025. And when they get Medicare in all 50 states, that is when they will start advertising. And why do they do that? Because that's how they can get cheap customer acquisition costs. Imagine sending a mailer, like sending a card in the mail about Talkspace services to all of the recipients of Medicare in America. Well, the cost is so much lower if you do this to everybody than, say, if you just target a few states. Same for TV advertising, right? If you advertise only in certain cities, that's going to cost much more than just to do a nationwide TV ad campaign and reach that target population. They're growing in other areas. Amazon partnership. So the Amazon partnership, they gave us a little detail. They had announced that before, but the point of the partnership is that they partner with Amazon to help the clients discover their behavioral health benefits and perhaps potentially see whether they qualify for therapy or even perhaps some prescription eligibility. And of course, Amazon as a pharmacy. So Amazon refers the customers to Talkspace. And again, the goal ever for this is to charge insurance, to find ever more insurance who are willing to cover for those services and to make people aware that their insurance will pay for some of those services. And the last part of their business is their expansion to what I'm going to call the logos, the different logos is what I'm going to call it. So the military is a big thing that they're expanding into, but not only, they're expanding into the New York Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, I think it's called. Huge program. They call it Teen Space, and it's a program to reach teenagers that are in need of mental health via a chat box, via chat. That's how they do it. They signed up a sports association for professional tennis players, and they signed up school districts. So they signed up 7 more school districts this quarter. And this, if you saw my original video about Talkspace, this to me was the big selling point. Like, what if you get into a company where what if just 1% of the school districts in America sign up for Talkspace? Then you're talking about a total addressable market that is through the roof. And so there's a major need for mental health services, of course, at the high school level, but not only at the Medicare level. There's what they call a loneliness crisis. So in the 65 plus community, the military, there's always been a strong need in the military for mental health. This is a growth company. This is an absolute growth company, and we also have some companies offering it. Someone in the comments section told me that Trader Joe's was just beginning to offer Talkspace for Trader Joe's employees. Go figure. So it's really interesting to me what they are doing here, and it's a growth company because of all of that. And of course, much of that growth is coming from the payer money. So the consumer has a copay, right? The consumer pays a little bit, right? That's the enterprise, the DT here. The DT pays a little bit, the enterprise pays a little bit. So New York Department of Health pays a few fees, but the payer is their insurance company. They are paying the bulk of that revenue for Talkspace. And the key is to try to get all of these insurance companies who are out there and try to get the school district and try to get the Department of Health of major cities. Remember in my prior video, I went through all of the major cities, how many billions they allocate Think about the top 10 big cities in America. They all allocate more than $1 billion to their Department of Health. So we're talking different orders of magnitude here, because we're talking about a company that has only 47 million in revenue. This company is a baby compared to the potential size of the space, and it's all about getting those insurance companies to provide some services. And of course, the little bit that I've looked at it, these insurance companies, they do everything to place a bunch of little hoops so that you may not qualify. And so they worked very hard on the back end to actually address the different hoops that you have to jump through in order to make Talkspace qualify for reimbursement by those insurance companies. It's the type of, kind of political, legal, insurance type opportunity that I personally don't like as much on the channel, and I don't discuss it as much. It's not a raw economic opportunity. It is an opportunity that is regulatory, that they are going after, jumping through the hoops of insurance to get that payer reimbursement. And it's of course a much harder business to do, and it's a slower growth business. But the big question is, how quickly do you run out of people who want to pay out of pocket for mental health chat box, for a mental health chat box? How you probably quickly run out of people who want to pay out of pocket for that. HIMSS has a different business model. HIMSS, let's take ED. I can tell you, it's probably every single man who has ED out there who's willing to pay $50 a month to get that fixed, right? It's a different business model, entirely different business model. Plus the issue of, if you deal with, say, teenagers, they don't have money of their own, so they need to go through the payer system. So I understand why they do it for Talkspace, but I also understand that the growth may be lumpy, and so there may be some years where the growth is lumpy. It's a long-term story for me. Anyways, I go on a little rant here, but the point here. Let me conclude with the guidance. They kept the guidance the way it was, between 23 and 30%. I'm hoping it's going to be 30%. It looks like they're doing well, but we'll see. So they kept the guidance for 2024. And their adjusted EBITDA between 4 and 8 million. In my view, they will get closer to the 8 million. So that's a growth year over year, major growth year over year. And they just did 1 cent of profit. So the market might be starting to notice Talkspace. And then let's talk about valuation of Talkspace. So of course, I'm going to compare it to LifeMD and to HIMSS. Now, LifeMD and HIMSS, I consider them more generalist. I consider them more peers is how I look at it. But if you follow the channel, that I do not have a LifeMD, but I have a big position in HIMSS. I'm a big believer in HIMSS. Why do I prefer HIMSS? Because HIMSS has the pharmacy and the digital doctor all together. LifeMD is the digital doctor with the coupons. They give you the coupons, and then you still have to go to Walgreens or, I guess, Amazon Pharmacy or whatever, but you still have to go to the local grocery store, go for the back of the store, get to the pharmacy, you give them the LifeMD coupon, and they give you the prescription. This is not the same for HIMSS, right? HIMSS is 2-in-1, so I still like HIMSS the best compared to LifeMD. Talk, I put it in a different category. In many ways, Talk competes against Teladoc BetterHelp. That's who they compete against. And in my view, Talk, because they have this niche target A, and then they jumped through all the hoops of insurance to try to get insurance reimbursement, done that for years. Much of it was done before they were even public. Because they jumped through those hoops, they have kind of a regulatory built-in moat, in the sense that if the competition wants to achieve what they do, well, they probably have 2 years of work ahead of them. And again, there is the qualitative assessment of the growth. There could be explosive growth. There's a lot of optionality. Like, I don't know how many seniors are going to decide to, say, get a therapy session once they find out that Medicare is going to cover for some of it, right? I don't know how many school districts are going to find it compelling to offer a chat box to teens in need, but my guess would be a whole lot of school districts. That's why they signed 7 more, right? So qualitatively, when I look at Talkspace qualitatively, and when I look at mental health, and in the US, it has been a trend for many years, and I see more and more talk of that. More and more people are willing to get some form of individual therapy, couples therapy, all sort of therapy. So I see this as a big trend, and it's cheap. The stock is cheap. If you look at, if you don't take into account the growth itself, right, it is actually cheaper than HIMSS. It's 1.8. If you just look at the forward revenue, I guess you take into account the growth because I look at forward revenue. But even if you look at past revenue, the stock is cheaper than HIMSS on some metrics. Now, on my golden metric, which is how much am I paying for that growth, it's a 17.9. It's a 0.179 for Talks, a little more expensive than HIMSS at 0.10. But then again, what do we think about the growth numbers? It's all about the growth numbers. In my view, all of these stocks are very cheap. This is kind of a nitpicking. Anyways, I can't add to my HIMSS position. I have too much HIMSS, so I have to find another one. I like Talkspace. Talkspace, it's gonna remain a small position. I have exposure to it through options. If it wants to ever earn a spot in the portfolio that is like, even half a position or a full position, then it's going to have to grow, and it's going to have to be a much bigger company. Of course, right now, the company, you see the enterprise value is 420 million. So this is a very inexpensive stock from an EV standpoint. So this was not financial advice, not investment advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.